right, Tyson, we are back. So today there is speculation of the Camaro coming back, but it's going to be in SUV form. Um, I think this is the wrong way to go for such an iconic sports. Well, I will say not sports car, but more of a pony car, I guess you would call
It's a
it.
muscle car.
Muscle
Muscle
car,
car,
yeah,
yeah.
muscle car, yeah.
Muscles.
So, so we talked about with Ford and the Mustang, right? And how they made the Mach-E
Yeah,
into the
briefly
SUV.
we've talked a
Yeah,
little bit about it. Yep.
yeah. So, and I think we agreed on it that they should
Am
have
I
used a different
frozen?
name. No, you're not frozen. but
Okay. Looked like I was frozen.
but
Yeah.
so like they just should have called it Mach-E, you know. Because when I think Mustang, and I don't think that. Even when I see one, I still don't think Mustang. So I think what if they are going to make the Camaro, they better make at least the muscle car again, and then branch off and have Qs, whatever. But don't name it the Camaro. Um, I don't know. And then I know SUVs are kind of the thing now, because everybody drives an SUV type of vehicle. But I think they're missing the demographic of people that love the Camaro, and it's not going to work. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm with you on I agree with everything. But this wouldn't be a show if we just agreed on everything and said, okay, that's it. So I did a little bit of research also, and I've done some digging. Uh, and my thoughts are from what I've read, the Mustang EV, we're going to dive into that just for a second here. The sales on that are better than the Mustang, flat out. It is selling its muscle car counterpart, and it's actually becoming a success for Ford. So that, as well as the fact that they canceled the Camaro. 2024 was the last year of the Camaro again. I mean, they've canceled it what, 3 times now.
Mm-hmm.
They canceled it due to poor sales. So as Chevy and Camaro has, and I saw a Motor Trend person make this quote, so I want to. I'm not this clever, but Chevy's coming full circle once again. Ford created the Mustang in '64. Chevy made the Camaro specifically to be the
Mm-hmm.
Mustang
Competitor.
competition. And here we are, possibly 2 years after the Ford Mustang EV, and Chevy seeing these sales for the Mustang EV, and they're thinking, that's what we're going to do. And I hate it, but the sales numbers for the Ford Mustang are showing this is actually maybe the demographic. This is really the way to go. And I would rather it. I mean, they've already got an SUV EV, the Blazer, I think it is. It seems
Yep.
like that. So they're going to literally be introducing competition to themselves. Um, but they actually, I guess, once again, and we talked about this in a previous show, the whole truck thing in the US versus cars, etc., and Ford going away from cars. And if I recall, where you were actually telling me at the time, Nick, not to throw this out there, but you were saying you thought that was actually the right way to go, and here's just more support for it. So
Yes, but so then what does? But here's the thing. Okay, what does Ford have? They have at least they still have the Mustang. Okay,
they do still have the
and
Mustang, yes.
yeah, and even though the Mustang people are like, oh yeah, we compete. We're up with the Corvette and all that. No, they're not. Uh, yeah, they might be fast and everything, and everything, but Corvette's a two-seater sports car. It's a completely different type of car. Mustang, yes, it can compete. It can go as fast as a Corvette and stuff like that, but it's still a different type of car. You know what I'm saying? Um, so then,
Yeah,
what I think Chevy needs to do is keep the Camaro to compete with that, and this is the reason why Camaro sales dropped off. Camaro, um, the body really didn't the style didn't change much, for this last generation. There's the two generations, and they made little bit of differences. Mustang, they just kept pioneering and changing it, and kept the general shape, and they keep innovating a little bit. Camaro really didn't. All they just said, oh, we're just going to put the big engine in there, and boom, it's more of a and there were some more track orientated Camaros, but the Camaros, if you look at them, they look big and bulky, right?
They're wide.
Yeah,
Because especially the latest versions, they're wide. Yeah.
yeah, wide is great for track and everything
Staying
like
on the
that.
road. Yep.
But the Mustang looks a lot more sleeker, a lot more faster, and it's, to me, it's design cues. If they would have just kind of, what have been, I don't know, my opinion, because they took the design cues from like the 67 through the 69, and kind of, what do you call it? Retro?
They did the whole retro look, basically.
Yeah.
And I liked it for a while.
Yeah, but what I think they should have done, instead of just kind of making little style cues and kept that next generation, because they basically look the same to me unless you look real close. They should have kind of went off the next generation of like in the 70s, where they kind of had a little pointed.
The Mach,
I think
the Mach body, wasn't that?
Oh, no. For the Camaro.
For the Camaro, I thought you were talking for Mustang. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
the whole with the pointed nose.
I think that would have been fun.
Yeah, it had the pointed. I don't know what they call that, but yeah, pointed nose, and it had the little flares on the back, and yeah,
and I think if they would have just restyled it like that, I think it would have been a hit. But I don't know.
But then they would have eventually had to copy the 80s look, and let's be honest, the 80s were ugly. So I don't know if I want them to go that path, just because I don't want to revisit the 80s. Good old
I'm just saying. I think that would have been just a fun little touch, but I just don't see it as SUV. It might, but it's just so. And here's the thing with Mustangs. Mustangs, they appeal more to the younger generation. Definitely, they always have since the 60s, whatever. They've always appealed to the younger generation. Camaros, kinda, not really, but yeah, I would say the Camaro is more of the grown-up version of the Mustang, because back then people had Camaros, but it was people maybe a little bit older, and I think it's still true to today. When I see people driving Camaros, it's not young kids.
I think you might be right there. I've never viewed it that way. I've never even thought of it as that. I always kind of, in my mind, Fords were, if you drove a Mustang, you were a Ford fan. If you drove the Camaro, you were a Chevy fan. It was that rift there in my mind. But I never actually paid attention to the one or the other. I think the Mustang has always been just a little cheaper entry point, and I think that's driven it amongst possibly the younger crowd. Like you and me growing up high school, very few people got a Camaro. There were Mustangs a lot. There were a lot of Mustangs, and I think it was, in my opinion, I never thought it was. I thought it was, they either like Ford or it's just slightly cheaper. But it could be that it's just more of a growing up thing overall. You could be right there. Like I said, I just never even considered it. I do think, though, once again, if we're looking at the older, just to counter you, Nick, because, well, I've got to. If we're looking at that, EVs are appealing to the older generation as well, though. It's the sensible. If we're looking at that crowd, it's a more sensible car. I think overall muscle car sales are down. It's not just the Mustang. It's not just the Camaro. The whole Challenger sales are down too.
Well, so what's funny with the EV, at least from what I see, and I'm just, I don't know, it might be different in other places, but for EV sales, it seems it's not the older generation. I mean older generation, like 50 plus. That's because we're old, but we're not that old yet.
Yeah, we're not too far off. Yeah, let's not pretend we're far from it.
Right. Well, but we'll say the older generation, and they're still, they still like the gas powered and stuff like that. But they're the ones they're the ones that have retirement money. They're retired and everything, and I see those type of people still spending the money. The younger
Yeah, but
ones,
you could just and I'm not trying to start any type of generation type thing here, but I think you age with your technology, you feel more secure. I mean,
right?
when we were young, we used to tease our grandparents. They couldn't figure out computers, blah blah blah, and every generation has done it. I'm sure typewriters, etc. You grow up with your thing, and I'm feeling it now with some technologies. Kids will do this. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm starting to think, man, I'm turning into my grandparents with, well, how do you use this
Oh,
newfangled thing? And cars could be the same way. We know how to work on a combustion engine. We understand how it functions. We feel secure in it. We haven't built the trust in it to where the new generation has. It could be. I guess my thought process is the way with that is are they not embracing it because of I'm not gonna say preference, but I guess it is preference because we all prefer things. Nostalgia and stuff like that is real, you know?
well, here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I'm just going to old people, especially I don't know. For me, like you get aggravated now. Like time, it's like you're like going, come on, you just don't want to wait as much. I don't know, at least for me, and it's the same thing. So instead of just filling up the gas and getting and then getting going, instead of, you don't have that time to wait, and you don't think about it. 'Cause when you're older, you're like going, oh, I want to go, and you just kind of get up and go, and then you're like, oh, I got to charge. I think that's for and I'm saying older people.
Right. That might be the mindset, but once again, I think that's a lack of experience with it, you know?
Well,
Once
that's
again,
my
they
point.
didn't wanna
That's my point.
embrace iPhones for a while, stuff like
Oh, I
that, you
still don't
know?
want an iPhone. Give me
Crazy,
my flip
crazy.
phone.
Give me my old-fashioned rotary phone that, I have to have a wire that's 15 feet so I can go sit on the couch when I talk.
Yeah.
I
No,
used to get
but
my steps that way because I just sit there and pace right in the hallway by it.
the good old days. The but no, but see, but anyway, so even if they made the SUV gas powered, I still don't see a Camaro name to it. Um, take the styling cues and see that this is what I think made the Mustang uh, and the Mach-E do fairly well, because they did take styling cues from the Mustang. Like the tail lights and everything like that. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
about
that's
it's about really it.
yeah, I
Um,
think if you look at the grill slightly, there's a hint. Also,
yeah,
I think it's the grill slash headlights, and then it's primarily the taillights. I mean, Mustangs had
it's the tail
iconic
lights.
taillights
Yep,
since their induction. The three stripes
yep.
coming down, kind of. That's not a very good. But you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's they've always had that, and they putting that on there, I think helps. And Camaro doesn't really have an iconic, I think. Like those taillights, once again, they're iconic. I don't know what the Camaro has those styling cues that they would take because they've gone through different iterations.
Yeah, the Camaro's always been
It's
way
literally going to be a
different.
badge.
Yep. And
That's it.
so, and and we talked about, like, I think we touched on the Ford Maverick. So, because I had a Ford Maverick, in the 70s. Well, I'm not that old, but I had a 70s Ford Maverick. And it here in the States, it ended in like 76, I think. So there was only like, I think, 7 years of the Ford Maverick. Okay. Nobody really remembers that. So when they brought it back as a truck, nobody remembered the Ford Maverick from the 70s. And I think that would work too. But the Camaro is too new, too fresh to bring back a name and change it all the way around.
Sure. But I guess my thought process is despite the taillights, once again, we are seeing the Mach-E, the Mustang, outsell its muscle car
Well,
counterpart.
but
And
that
it
that's
costs
just
more.
well that's because everybody's wants it like an SUV. But I don't see them anywhere at car shows. I don't
Well,
see
yeah, you don't see them at car shows. You don't see usually how often do you see a brand new Mustang period at a car show?
a
You
lot,
know?
a lot here. Yeah,
Okay. I
a lot.
I guess I stand corrected. I about to say same thing with like the new Camaros,
Yep. Yep.
we don't they're not car
Oh,
show worthy I think in a lot of unless you've done something special to them.
But that's the funny thing. Okay, so because the Mustang, for car show wise, they all the new Mustangs and everything, they show up at car shows and everything. Camaros, they don't. I don't know what happened to them. I don't.
New
You don't
Camaros
see
or old
the
Camaros or
newer,
Camaros in
newer,
general?
newer. I'm talking about the
Okay, I'm about
newer.
to say
Yeah.
because I still see old Camaros and I still see people. I was actually at a football game. This just made me smile. It's a football game a couple of weeks ago, high school football game, and an old. It looked like I want to say it was a '67, but it could be anywhere between a '66 to '69. Camaro pulled up, and all these high school boys like pulled out their phone, rushed over there to start taking pictures as it was pulling in the park, and just seeing, yeah, there are still people that care. Even the younger generation, they still recognize an old classic
Oh
muscle
yeah.
car.
Oh yeah.
And but you wouldn't see that though, and I think this is why, at least where I'm at, you don't see a new Camaro. You don't see that same type of like, oh, it's Camaro.
You used to when they this last generation, the very first of it, but like I said, they didn't really redesign
Well, that's
it or
because
make
it
anything.
was they took it away for a while too, though. You had I'll admit one thing, and maybe this is slightly off topic. When they reintroduced this latest model of Camaro, like they discontinued Camaro for I want to say like 4 years, something like that, and then they reintroduced it. And when they reintroduced it, they actually used that movie Transformers
Oh yeah,
and
for
reintroduced it as
hmm
Bumblebee.
yep.
And people saw that, and I'll admit when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, that's a cool car." Now they're common,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
lost their whole appeal, and I think that's part of it is they're a super common car, and when a car becomes super common, it's no longer, "Ooh, look at that," even if it possibly is fast.
Well,
They're
let's see.
they're all over the place.
But that's the same thing with Mustangs. They're all over the place. But Mustang, you can tell the difference between their base model, and the models that go up. You got your GT350. You can just tell when you're driving. You're like, oh, okay. But on a Camaro, the only way you're really going to be able to tell is probably the hood. You know what I'm saying? Because they have a different hood. Like with the was it ZL1? They had a different type of style of hood and stuff, but they didn't really put like no spoilers or any other design cues. And I think that's what kind of faltered this last these Camaros, this last go around, because they all look kind of the same, and though and they're like the ZL1s. The, the only reason you're gonna know is if you pull up next to it and you see the hood. But if you don't, it's going to be a sleeper car, and it might take you. But I don't know. It's just, and I think that's where Mustang, they just have better design cues, and I always even though I'm a Chevy guy, yeah, for the most part, I think Ford's always outdone Chevy on the design, on the design style or the styling. Yep.
I mean, I there's certain generations where yes, the Mustang looks better. In my opinion, this is obviously opinion based. The Mustang looks better, but there's a couple of generations where I prefer the Camaro. But I'd say if you're in my even then, yeah, Ford has had more success with it, and I think the Mustang has been throughout the history. And I haven't Googled this. I think it has been still a more successful car, period, than the Camaro. And
Oh,
maybe
for
it's the
sure.
styling
For sure.
cues. Maybe, it's because they did it first. Or maybe it's because they've always been a little more affordable. Not that Camaros have always they've always tried to price them similar, but maybe they've always been slightly more affordable. Who knows? I don't know why, but they have been, and maybe that is leading partially to their. Because once again, I don't want to get off topic. The EV sales, because their EV sales are actually good. And I think
Well,
that's what's drawing Chevy to do this is Chevy sees, hey, Ford has got a successful EV. What they did is they literally took the taillights of one of their iconic cars, put a badge on it, said it's the same damn car, and it's selling. Can we do that? And we live in a copycat world.
yeah, it's not. I just had a feeling it's not gonna work. But my last thought on this is, if you're gonna buy a car for your kid, just turning 16, and we're looking at base models because you're not gonna get them anything that's good. They're gonna get in trouble or kill themselves with. Um, if I'm looking at cars, say those are the two I come down to, I'm choosing the Mustang.
Hang on, if we're looking at the cars themselves or the EVs, just for clarification.
The cars, okay,
Okay.
because they don't have an EV for, so we have to consider
Yeah, yeah, I wanted
just
to
the
make
cars.
sure because same name,
Well, but
it can
yeah,
be
but
confusion. So I just want to make sure. So we're looking at the actual Mustang car versus the Camaro car, the combustion
yeah,
engine. Okay.
yeah. So because the EV Mustang is its own little thing. We all know this. It's really not a Mustang. So when we com- we're, when we're
Yeah.
competing against that, no. But I'm just saying,
Well,
you
I
know
know,
what I'm saying. The
but
car, but between a car and an SUV, not
right.
not saying EV. I'm just saying
I get
between
you.
cars, different
I'm
styles.
just saying, yeah, because who knows, 15 years down the line, the next generation, when they think Mustang, they might think SUV. And that's what Ford wants. But anyways, continue.
Anyway, but for me, like I said, if I'm buying a teenager a car, I would have bought the Mustang for him. I
I
don't know.
wouldn't have
That's
bought
just,
my teenager either of those cars, but that's
well, no.
because
I'm
I
just saying
grew up poor.
if you had choice out of, yeah. I'm just saying if you had a choice out of the two.
Right, right. Um, I don't know if I like. I'm trying to think. What would I do if I was in that scenario? And I don't know. I haven't put any thought into that, and I can't make it obviously on the spot because I'm still wrapping my head around. I'm gonna buy my kid a Mustang or a Camaro as their first car. I'm wrapping my head around that,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Well,
but yeah, I have no idea what I would buy my kid if those were my two choices. Um, I technically, as much as I'm sure half the kids out there would want either of those cars, um, yeah, I don't know. I'll stop there. I don't know. But
well,
so no, and once again, this is all a matter of opinion. I guess reaching out to our few viewers right now, hopefully someday more than few. What are your thoughts? Do you like the Mustang EV? First of all, would you buy one over a Mustang? Would you buy a Camaro EV? Uh, we obviously all have different opinions, so I'd love to hear from people. What do they think?
yeah, and I think what we need to start, or at least us and maybe companies, we need to differentiate between, like, and we brought this up, between a truck, car, SUV, and we need to start separating them a little bit more. And I'm with you. I think we need to bring cars back a little bit more, like actual smaller cars and stuff, and make them a
Yep.
little more sporty and stuff like that. I'm all for that. SUVs are everywhere. I know what's the word?
Practicality. I think
Yeah, the
that's what you say. I
practicality.
can't say words
Yes,
either.
yeah, of an SUV. Because it works. It just works. It's a nice compact. And it works. You can throw stuff in it and everything like that. Um, I totally understand, but I agree. I think we need to bring back some more cars because it's getting kind of bland out there because everything's just an SUV now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I've owned a couple SUVs. You could even argue the car I own now is an SUV, although I like to think it's more of just a hatchback. But I'm guilty of it, and yet I advocate for them. Yeah. Overall, I'm I guess the end on um I'm anti either of them, but more so not the EVs themselves or the SUVs. I mean, I don't want an SUV, but I I still, despite sales, despite opinions, despite the taillights, I don't like the Mach-E or whatever, the
I don't
Ford
either.
SUV. I will not like the Camaro SUV, and I'm gonna sound stuck in my ways or whatever here, duly based on the naming. If they named it something else, either of them, I might be like, yeah, okay, those are cool SUVs.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But right now, and I think something you said earlier, Nick, and I think it actually applies to both, at least to people like you and me. Um, it is too new. With the Maverick, I didn't like the Maverick truck. I actually like the Maverick truck. I didn't like the name. Um,
Yeah,
but yes, you're right. It was discontinued 40 years, 50 years ago. now,
Yeah,
right?
long time. Yeah, long time.
45.
Well,
But
76. So
yeah, we've got almost 50 then. We've got Camaros recently because they discontinued in 2024, and we've got Mustangs still being made that are out there. And they're fresh in every generation's mind. And this is what a Camaro and a Mustang is. And now we're trying to transform that real time. And I think that is my resistance. But
I, th- I
I'm
think
old,
you, I think no,
so
I think you said that just right because I agree with everything. I think that's precise.
right.
I think that's where we'll leave it off because we went over, and I already knew we was going to go over on this because it's a. I don't know. I just knew we were.
Yep.
So we'll leave that off, and like I said, uh, we'll go from there. We'll see you next episode, huh?
See you next episode. Hopefully, we're not talking about a Challenger SUV EV. Hopefully.
Oh my! Don't get me started
I
on
haven't
the
seen
on
anything, but
Stellantis.
hopefully.
Don't get me started.
All right.
All
Thanks, all.
right.
Buckle up.